Hi, I'm Richard from Le Havre Environmental Group's Bike Kitchen, and this is our tool library tips. I'm working on a bike today that has an extremely grubby drivetrain. It's just covered in oil and mud, and I think that the best course of action would actually be to remove those in order to give them a deep intensive clean, and then I can pop them back onto the bike. So in this video I'll show you the tools you'll need and how to use them in order to do that repair. So I have in front of me here the tools that I'll need for this job. I have a Quicklink tool, I have a standard chain braking tool, I have a socket handle, and inserted in that I have a cassette lock ring tool, and lastly I have a chain vise which holds the cassette in place while I remove the lock ring from it. I've had a look around the chain on the bike and it doesn't have a Quicklink fitted. So the first tool that I need is a chain breaker. Now I've had a look around this chain and there doesn't appear to be a Quicklink anywhere in the chain, so I'll need to use the chain breaker in order to remove this. And the way that we do that is we find one of the pin plates, we push it down into the tool to make sure it's seated nicely. This tool has a retracting cover which actually locks it into a nice position, so it should go through straight, but this shouldn't take any effort. If you're finding that you're really having to wrench on the tool, it's probably not aligned, it's probably not straight, and you should be careful and just back off and try that again. So I'm just going to very gently twist through, and I can see the pin starting to come out on the far side. Now when I refit this chain, I'm not going to use this pin again, so it doesn't matter if it comes all the way out. In fact, I will be removing it and inserting a Quicklink into the system. So the pin has popped all the way out. I can retract the tool and the chain is now broken. I can then pedal the bike and the chain will come straight off. If your bike, like this one, does have a Quicklink in the chain, the key to removing that is to use our Quicklink pliers. And what we do is we find the link in the chain, pop the pliers in on either side of that link and press together, and you can see the pin here has moved slightly to the left, and that will allow us to then pull the chain apart. Now I'm going to remove the wheel from the bike so I can get access to the cassette. If you want to know how to remove your wheel, I have created a video about that and I'll put that in the top right of the screen just now. Now I've got the wheel off of the bike. I'm going to remove the quick release gear here. You may not have to do this if you have a bolt through axle. If you do have a fixed axle, so it has a nut on the end, you'll need to remove that. I've taken the skewer off and I'm just going to pop the spring back on just the way I found it, and I can screw that so I don't lose anything. I'll pop that aside. Now I need my chain vise. First of all, I have to resize this to the cassette, so it can be tightened by screwing it in or loosened by screwing it out. Now that is a bit loose on there just now, so I'm just going to tighten that up a little, and I want it just to go on quite snug, but it shouldn't require too much force. Now I'm going to position this so I can hold that in my left hand. Now I'm going to take the socket handle with the cassette lock ring tool in place in my right hand, and standing behind the wheel and pushing down so I get as much applied force as possible. I'm just going to rotate that. Now that should come straight off with the lock ring itself. Now I can remove the vise and the cassette will come straight off. At this point I can do a quick check on the free hub just to make sure that it's engaging properly and that there's not any play evident in it. And I'm just going to give that a little grease, just to give that a little coating between the contact metal points. Now I've got my cassette here, and I have the cassette in three parts. I have the main body, I have the bottom cog, and I have the lock ring here. Now the first thing I need to do is, on the main part of the cassette you'll find a small arrow, and that has a large notch and a small notch next to it. So I need to find that on the cassette. And you can see here I have the thin notch and then the wide notch. So that is going to line up with that. So I'll just rotate that into position. And then that slides on. I will now put on, using the same large notch and small notch with the bottom cog. And then I'll take my lock ring tool and I'll pop that on. I'll then return to my cassette lock ring tool, which I'll insert and just screw that home as far as it will go by hand, and then using the socket handle, tighten that up, and that should be on fairly tight. There we go. Now I'm going to pop on the quick release skewer. Now the quick release skewer goes in from the left side of the bike, so the non-drive side you have the quick release lever. So that just slides through the axle, and then I pop on the spring with the small part in the way, the white part facing out, and then the nut on the top, and that just screws down. I can now put this back onto the bike. At this point I'm just going to reinstall the chain, so I'll feed this through the front met first of all, and give that just enough length as it hangs down. Then I'll feed it through the frame at the back here, around the cassette, over the top jockey wheel, and then thread through to the back of the front top jockey wheel, making sure that you get it around any tabs, like this little guy just here. And I'm going to push that out to the back of the bottom jockey wheel. Again, I've got another little cage here that it needs to drop through, and round the bottom jockey wheel like so. I will now take my Quicklinks, which come in two parts. I'll feed one through from the back, the other through from the front, and then I'll hold those in position with my fingers and pull that into place. Now generally these will be fairly easy to get on, just as I did there, but if it is a little bit tricky, if it seems quite tight, what you can do is you can pull the wheel round until you've got the quick link at the top here, like so, and then holding the wheel in place or putting the bike on the ground and then pressing on the pedal should pull it across into position. And you can see that is complete now. So that was a short instructional video on chain and cassette tools available from the Lochaber Environmental Group tool library. All these tools and more are available free of charge to all Lochaber residents, and you can get in touch to find out more using the details in the description below.